The believing men and believing women are allies of one another. They enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong, and establish prayer and give charity, and obey God and his messenger. God will have mercy upon these, for God is almighty and wise. Holy Quran 9:71. Chapter 7. Visiting Sangis. Introduction. A man set to visit a Muslim brother in another town. God sent an angel disguised as a man on the way. When they met, the angel asked him, "Where are you going?" The man replied, "To visit my brother in the town." The angel inquired, "Have you done any favour to him, and expect a reward?" He replied, "No, I intend to visit him only for the love of God." Thereupon the angel stated, "I am a messenger from God, sent to inform you that God loves you as you love your brother." Muslim. One of the primary reasons for Hadrat Sahib's numerous journeys was to meet old Sangis. Each Sangi had benefited from Qibla Alarm according to his ability. Perhaps Hadrat Sahib found solace in the company of the Sangis who had spent their entire lives with his beloved father. These Sangis were the benchmark for the future generation. Referring to the old Sangis, Hadrat Sahib would often state, "Those people were solid gold and without the outward display of piety. Nowadays there is a lot on display, but without substance." Tailor Sangi. Once Hadrat Sahib travelled to the Dadial area to visit an old Sangi who was a tailor by profession. Upon seeing Hadrat Sahib, he stood up to greet him and began to cry. When the old Sangis met Hadrat Sahib and observed how dedicated he was on the spiritual path, they rejoiced, knowing that the son of their master was a worthy successor. After the meeting, the old Sangi stood up to bid farewell and did not sit down until Hadrat Sahib was out of sight. Hadrat Sahib later commented, "These people are the epitome of sincerity and devotion. The association with their master had turned them into gold. Whoever sat in their company benefited." It is evident that Hadrat Sahib was touched by the sincerity of the old Sangi. Ill Sangi. In 1950, Hadrat Sahib's father-in-law became seriously ill. His illness took its toll on him, and he gave up any hope of recovery, and so desired to meet Hadrat Sahib. Coincidentally, Hadrat Sahib had been invited to attend the annual commemoration ceremony of Qibla Alarm in the Punjab. However, his mother advised him to visit his father-in-law instead. Therefore, Hadrat Sahib travelled to Kotli and found his father-in-law in a critical condition. After a few days, his health improved, and Hadrat Sahib decided to return home. By spending time with the sick, the holy people lift their worries and even take on their illnesses. The ill person makes a recovery, but then the master becomes ill or faces some adversity. Bus accident. After visiting his father-in-law, Hadrat Sahib boarded an old bus bound for Mirpur. The journey from Kotli to Mirpur is about a 3-hour bus drive. He sat on the front seat with his bag of litanies, a light shawl, and was accompanied by a Sangi and his sister. There was a female passenger who continuously complained about the wretched state of the transport in Azad Kashmir, and stated by contrast transportation was far better in her area in the Punjab. Such behaviour of ingratitude can sometimes bring misfortune on the travellers, and this is what occurred later. The bus driver was an old man, and he seemed nervous about driving the bus. Perhaps he knew something that the passengers did not. When the bus reached the crossing, there was a steep hill, and the driver shouted that the brakes of the bus had failed. Naturally, the passengers began to panic. Hadrat Sahib even contemplated opening the side door and jumping out. However, the speed of the bus and the hill below prevented him from acting upon that thought. Although the driver tried to stop the bus from falling down the hillside, he turned it toward the mountain, where it crashed and rolled over. Hadrat Sahib was the first passenger to leave the bus, but he had hurt his foot and so rested it on a rock. There was an army training camp nearby, and when the soldiers saw the accident, they rushed to rescue the passengers. They put the wounded on another bus which arrived after the crash and placed Hadrat Sahib on a truck. In the accident, Hadrat Sahib lost some of his belongings, but fortunately the Sanghi managed to retrieve those items. With a severely injured foot, Hadrat Sahib endured the truck ride with great difficulty. When the truck was near Hadrat Sahib's village, he got off but was unable to walk due to the excruciating pain. As Hadrat Sahib lay down on the ground, he reminded himself of all the hardship that the pious people had gone through, and yet they never gave up. So despite the intense pain, he got up and began walking. Hadrat Sahib then came across a college student with whom he sent a message to his family. He instructed them to bring his horse because he was not feeling well. Hadrat Sahib was a master of understatements. With a severely injured foot and intolerable pain, most of us would send an alarming message that would surely attract the whole village's attention. However, Hadrat Sahib's integrity and forbearance in moments of catastrophe prevented him from complaining about his pain. As he waited for his horse to arrive, a Sanghi suddenly came with his donkey. He informed Hadrat Sahib that he had heard about the accident while he was in the local markets. Someone had told him that Hadrat Sahib was in great pain and that he lay by the roadside. The Sanghi left his shopping and came to take Hadrat Sahib home. When the news of the accident reached his mother, she was very anxious. As soon as Hadrat Sahib arrived home, an orthopedic doctor treated his foot, and for the following 17 days he was bedridden. The news of Hadrat Sahib's accident quickly spread amongst the Sanghis, who came in droves to visit him out of genuine care and worry for their master's well-being. Sanghis in Punjab. One of the deputies of Qibla Alam had migrated from Kashmir during the partition and settled in the Punjab. Every year he held the annual commemoratory ceremony of his beloved master. In 1950, he invited Hadrat Sahib, who travelled to the Punjab with 3 Sanghis. The ceremony was held in a nearby school. When Hadrat Sahib arrived, perhaps earlier than expected, there was no one to receive him at the school. Hadrat Sahib sat quietly at the back of the stage and attentively listened to the speaker. A learned teacher, Abad al-Ghani, addressed the small gathering, since most people had gone to eat, and explained the concept of initiation. He stated that the saint is a means to reach God, and the role of the saint is to guide one to the nearness of God. However, if the so-called saint is not close to God, how can he guide others? Nowadays, it is these kinds of people who are mostly giving initiation. When Abad al-Ghani realized that Hadrat Sahib sat behind him, he turned back and apologized, but Hadrat Sahib told him to continue. Abu al-Ghani was a well-educated and a well-mannered individual, and Hadrat Sahib liked him. It was stated that he was an exceptionally disciplined person and had set aside time for every good action. When the deputy finally found out that Hadrat Sahib had arrived, his family came out to welcome him and took him home. Hadrat Sahib was invited to sit on the stage as the chief guest. However, he declined and sat at the mosque. Sanghis in Sensna. Hadrat Sahib had many Sanghis in the Sensna area. The old Sanghis in Sensa played host to Hadrat Sahib on numerous occasions. Hadrat Sahib would often visit the home of the old and poor Sanghi, Sattar Muhammad. On numerous occasions, Sattar Muhammad carried Hadrat Sahib on his back in his youth. Once Hadrat Sahib advised Satar Muhammad to build a small mosque. Despite his family being poor, they worked hard to fulfill Hadrat Sahib's command. Hadrat Sahib possessed remarkable insight and always gave the Sangis an order that brought them continuous benefits. Irrespective of its size, a mosque continues to benefit the donor even long after their death. On another occasion, Hadrat Sahib instructed Satar Muhammad to build a platform in his home. Satar Muhammad requested Hadrat Sahib to select the location, to which he obliged and said, "Honour this place and do not let children play in this area lest they make it impure. If you or your wife wish, you may offer your prayers here." It is possible that the site Hadrat Sahib chose for the platform had links to Qibla Alam, who stayed in this house on several occasions. It is believed that when such platforms are built, they hold strong spiritual significance and are of benefit to the area in which they are situated. Illiterate Sangi. Said Muhammad was an illiterate Sangi who was known for his piety and loyalty. A person once asked him what he had gained in the company of Qibla Alam. He replied, "All I know is that I was not a practicing Muslim, but due to the association of Qibla Alam, I began to pray regularly, and when I am with my master, the desire for the world is subdued." Said Muhammad dedicated his life to Qibla Alam and Hadrat Sahib. On one occasion, whilst Hadrat Sahib was at Said's house, a villager came and said, "My buffalo is sick." At that time, there was a pandemic foot and mouth disease. Hadrat Sahib instructed Faid to recite a specific Quranic chapter 7 times upon the animal. Afterwards Faid went to sleep, but was woken suddenly by the barking of a dog. When he opened his eyes, he saw a black shadow hovering over him, and he became temporarily paralyzed. He was able to see, but could not move any part of his body. Suddenly the black shadow left Faid and covered the buffalo, which instantly fell to its death. The following morning, Faid went to meet Hadrat Sahib, who inquired about the incident. Faid related the whole episode, and Hadrat Sahib informed him that he too had encountered a similar situation to Faid's. Sangis of colour. As mentioned earlier, Hadrat Sahib visited Divan Ali in colour on numerous occasions and continued these visits in his adulthood. Hadrat Sahib states, "I had the opportunity to stay at his, Divan Ali's, home, and he would read the Punjabi spiritual chain with such great passion that during the recitation his long tresses would sway from right to left. When he would reach the name of Qibla Alam, he would exclaim, 'Ila Allah,' with such force that his cap often fell off his head." In both his childhood and adult life, Hadrat Sahib prayed in the mosque of Fadal Ilahi in Kulla. During the late 1950s, by a divine will, Hadrat Sahib was travelling to visit Forjar Khan and had to spend the night near Kotli's historic town of Panjera, where news reached him of the passing of Fadal Ilahi. Hadrat Sahib attended his funeral, and when the nephew of Fadal Ilahi, Muhammad Alam, saw Hadrat Sahib, he remarked, "If my uncle knew you were coming, he would have asked the angel of death to grant him 1 extra day to live." Female Sangi. Hadrat Sahib visited both the old male and female Sangis of Qibla Alam. Abad al-Aziz was a Sangi of Qibla Alam and had been a pious role model for the woman in her area in Kotli. She often spun wool and was in constant remembrance of God. The local woman she mentored became devout Muslims. Her effect on her mentees was not surprising, given her exemplary characteristics. After all, it is believed in Islam that a believer must look carefully to whom he or she chooses as a companion or mentor. The following hadith of our Prophet poignantly explains why. The good companion and the bad companion are like the bearer of musk, perfume, and the one who pumps from the bellows. With the bearer of musk he will give you a share, or you will buy from him, or you will smell a pleasant scent from him. But the one who pumps the bellows, either he will burn your clothes, or you will smell a foul stench from him. In 1957, Abad al-Aziz became ill, and Hadrat Sahib went to visit her. He states, "As I approached her bed, she was delighted to see me. At that very moment she was focused on her heart. I asked her for prayers, as she had directly benefited from Qibla Alarm. She requested Hadrat Sahib to take care of her and conduct her funeral. To carry out her dying wish, Hadrat Sahib spent 40 days at the local mosque and conducted her funeral after her demise. To have a saint leading and carrying out one's funeral is a great blessing from God." Forja Khan. Forja Khan was the dear Sanghi of Qibla Alarm, who was the first to be informed about the birth of Hadrat Sahib. After Qibla Alarm passed from this world, Forja Khan remained loyal to Hadrat Sahib throughout his entire life. Hadrat Sahib made more journeys to meet him than any other Sanghi, and greatly benefited from his counsel. In 1961, Hadrat Sahib was informed that Forja Khan was on his deathbed. The love he had for Forja Khan was immense, and so he went to visit him. Despite his critical condition, Forja Khan tried to stand up for Hadrat Sahib, who told him not to. However, Forja Khan replied, "I am still alive. How can I remain on my bed when my master's son arrives?" Hadrat Sahib tried to hand over Muhammad Zaman, the son of Forja Khan, to his father. However, Forja Khan placed his son's hand in Hadrat Sahib's hand. Evidently, this gesture meant that Forja Khan wanted Hadrat Sahib to guide Muhammad Zaman. Hadrat Sahib then sought Forja Khan's permission to take his son for a walk. On the way, Hadrat Sahib explained to Muhammad Zaman that it was his wish to have Forja Khan buried near him in the mosque in Kotli. Forja Khan was informed of Hadrat Sahib's wish, to which he stated, "My family and I are your Sanghis. Your wish is our command." After his death, Forja Khan's body was sent to Kotli. Hadrat Sahib personally led his dear Sanghi's funeral prayer, who was laid to rest at the basement of Gulhar Sharif Mosque. Such was the dedication of Forja Khan that Hadrat Sahib wanted to stay close to him even after his death, for without doubt this relationship for God does not end with death. Hadrat Sahib sought to ensure his Sanghis learnt this reality just as much as he ensured his mission was in accordance with the prophetic examples of this connection. Hadrat Sahib realized that in order to safeguard the future generations of Sanghis, he had to build educational centres that would bring this area from the dark ages to a new age of enlightenment. He had a mission in mind, and he chose this area to carry it out.